welcome to my channel. Hang out with me while I go through my 26 books I want to read in 2026. So I definitely have more than 26 books on my physical TBR, but we're gonna just look past that. I curated this list and really thought through all the books I wanted to intentionally read this year. I'm really shooting for quality over quantity. I think in prior years, I used to read just to try to meet my number goal, but this year I'm just really shooting just to read for the enjoyment of reading. So let's go ahead and break down the books I want to read this year in genres, and then we can kind of go through each one of those books briefly and talk about them. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Here's the thing, I've been really wanting to read this book. I just kind of been holding off for the perfect moment, and honestly, there's probably never gonna be a perfect moment, so I'm going to get to this one. I absolutely fell in love with One Dark Window, the Two Twisted Crowns duology. It was definitely one of my favorite books, 2 years ago when I read it, and I still think about it constantly. Ione and Prince Alm were some of my favorite characters. Her fantasies are quite unique in comparison to some fantasies I've read over the years. I can't wait to jump back into a world that Rachel has created, so I will definitely prioritize this sooner than later. And we have Eternal Ruin by Tigest Girma. It's dark academia meets vampires, and let's just say this is a BIPOC world. Our main characters and side characters are people of color. It definitely elevates the experience when you feel like you can see yourself in characters. Can we get a moment for the cover? Can we get a moment for the cover? Because this is absolutely stunning. Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. I've had this on my TBR for, again, like 2-3 years. Honestly, I don't know why I've held off reading it. It's actually quite a short fantasy, and I know it has like fantasy-esque elements meets Jane Eyre. And when you put those two together, I feel like you can't go wrong. This is a standalone fantasy, so I really don't know what's holding me up, but I will be reading this one this year. For She Is Wrath by Emily Varga is a Pakistani-inspired fantasy novel, and I literally cannot wait to jump into this one. I know there is an enemies to lovers, kind of forbidden love. And I know this book has some feminine rage in it, and let me just tell you, anytime my female main characters in my fantasy novels just have that spark, that fire, I absolutely fall in love with those characters in that world. So I can't wait to jump into this one. I'm going to give you a quick glimpse of how beautiful the cover art and the like edge arts is. Next up, I have Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I'm really excited to jump back into this world. I read the first book like 3 years ago, and at first the book was really hard for me to get into because the beginning half of Legendborn was quite dense in the sense that you're building the world and like the legend, the story of Arthur. And if you're not familiar with it, I was like trying to pay attention. So it was a little bit hard at the beginning half of that book. But once I got to the halfway mark, I was absolutely enthralled with the world and the characters that we were building. So I can't wait to jump into Bloodmarked this year. Next up, we have House of Frank by Sinclair. I've heard only good things about this. This falls more under the magical fantasy where we have witches, and my understanding is it's more of an emotional read, and I personally love to have my heart pulled out. So I'm hoping that I have an emotional reaction to this book. I'll keep you posted. I have Babel by R. F. Kuang on my physical TBR this year, and to say I'm intimidated and quite afraid to read this is an understatement. But you know, this year is conquering fears, so I plan on reading Babel by R. F. Kuang. The next genre is literary fiction, and honestly, I haven't read too much literary fiction, but I really do want to go ahead and diversify my palette in the genre realm. And I figured this was a great way to do it, is to add in a few books I've had on my physical TBR that I'm really interested in reading. So let's go ahead and go through those. So it's lit fic, woman fiction, kind of in that realm. I have The Waves Take You Home by María, Alejandra, Barrios, Vélez. And I know this follows a female main character who moves to New York City because her family wants her to chase the American dream. She's from Colombia, and then an unfortunate event occurs in her life and in her family that she has to go back home. And when she makes her way home, she's greeted with some challenges along with running into her first love again. And I just have a feeling I'm gonna really gravitate to this story. I love a book that is like family and character driven, and I feel like this book is definitely gonna be that, with a subplot of, I'm hoping, romance, but we'll see. I don't know if it's gonna be a second chance romance in there, but I'm really excited to jump into the story because I know most literature fiction, women fiction, is centered around our main character and just kind of what's going on in her life. And I think this one has the potential to be one of my favorite reads of the year. So let's hope for that. Also on my 2026 TBR list, I have The Wedding People by Alison Espach. I've only heard really good things about this book. I also know that the cover can be quite deceiving, and I think a lot of people go into this thinking it is a happy-go-lucky story, but we kind of start off with a bang and potential deeper woven themes in this book. And I just really been wanting to jump into this because I know that it tackles a topic that is quite challenging and emotional, and it also ties in like the bigger message in life. Next up, I have The Lost Souls at Neptune Inn. I actually picked this up at my library. It was in their like bring a book, take a book, and I can't wait to read this one. I only got it last year, but when I read the synopsis, I was quite interested in it. I know this follows three characters and kind of their lives as they live and work for the Neptune Inn. That's pretty much all I know about it. I heard that this is like a family oriented, gut wrenching book where you just kind of fill all your fills. And I love books like that, so I really hope to get into this one. This is currently the only classic on my physical TBR, which is fine. You know, we have to tackle one at a time. If I'm really intrigued by Charlotte Bronte's writing, I might pick up another book by her, but we're starting off with Jane Eyre. I did actually start this last year and only got like about 50, 80 pages into it. I was buddy reading it with my sister, and then life happened and we kind of got busy and kind of put it off again. So I'm hoping to get into this one this year and read my first classic as a grown adult. So this is probably the genre that I have the most books I want to read in 2026, but I will say I love romance. Romance is my favorite genre. First up in our list of romance, I have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I'm gonna be completely real with you. I want to read this because I want to see the movie, and I feel like I could only do that if I read the book first. I haven't read anything by Ali. I don't even know if she's an author I'm going to enjoy, but we're gonna find out. I'm not that picky though when it comes to my romance. I'm just here for a good time, you know? These books are always about here for a good time, not a long time, so I'm hoping to enjoy this one. I have August Lane by Regina Black. I haven't read anything by this author before. All I know is this is a like Western cowboy second chance romance is my understanding, with a little bit of a more of an emotional pull. I love when my emotions are pulled, so I really can't wait to get into this one and keep you guys posted on my thoughts. Then I have Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. This is the second book in the Still Beating series, and I honestly just kind of want to jump back into this world and have my heart completely shredded and then hopefully repaired by the end of it. I got this book in 2024 when I went to Readers Take Denver, and it's actually signed by the author, and she's amazing. So I'm hoping to continue the series and finish it out. Here's the one book I've actually already read, which is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This one I just recently read. I gave it a 3.25 stars. I wouldn't say it's my favorite book by Abby Jimenez, but it's also not my least favorite, so take that with a grain of salt. I enjoyed the premise of the book. I think there was a lot of emotional things going on into this book that I think kind of took precedence over the relationship at times. Overall, I still had a good time, and I will continue reading this series as it progresses. I think the next one is, I don't remember. I'll pop it up on the screen, but I already read this one, so one book knocked off my list, so I have actually like 25 books. I'm actually so excited to read this one. This one is Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola. I read, what was it, Honey and Spice or Spice and Honey? I think it's Honey and Spice. Yeah, Honey and Spice. I read the first one last year, and that went on my list of top books of 2025. So I can't wait to jump into this one because I know it's a second chance romance and it takes place, I think, 10 years later and follows our two main characters and the side characters that are best friends that are getting married. And I just can't wait to jump back into this world and find out what broke them up and how they get back together. And just the title alone, I already know this is going to be amazing. And the fact that the other one was like new adult, young adult, this one is definitely taking place as adults. So I can only anticipate there's gonna be spice. I really do just love breaking my own heart. And I'm going to be reading Beautiful Broken Love by Shanora Williams. I've only actually read one other book by her, and it was a psychological thriller that had me what the effing the whole time, but absolutely had me hooked. So, this is a romance that has more of an emotional pull. After learning why the author wrote this book and what inspired her, I really feel a bigger pull to read it. Anytime an author tells me their story, I feel like I have a deeper love and respect for their work and their art books. And maybe I need to work on adding more rom-com books into my TBR because I have Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I haven't read anything by this author. My understanding is the books are interconnected, but they're standalones because the first one is Ready or Not. I want to read Promise Me Sunshine. I know it addresses topics of grief and kind of going through grief. I personally love books like that, but I also know they're not everybody's cup of tea. But I will keep you posted on if I enjoyed this book. And I have First Time Caller by BK Borgson, and honestly, this would be a great February read, so hopefully I do pick it up this month. I don't know much about this book other than a lot of people loved it. I know the second book comes out this month, and that's all I know. And this is probably the more happier romance books that I have on my TBR. I would say 80% of my TBR is emotional romances, and then 20% might be lighthearted, but we shall see. I don't know much about this book either, the mixtape, but it has a little necklace with a like best friend broken heart necklace. Um, So I'm guessing it's going to be an emotional romance. I'll keep you posted. Give Me Butterflies by Juliana Meadows. I read Wreck My Plans, which is more of a Christmas novel by this author, and absolutely loved it. I know these still are in the same world but follow different characters, so I really can't wait to jump into this one. Also, the cover is absolutely adorable. Last up in the romance category, we have Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I read the first book and thought it was completely hilarious last year in the beginning of the year, and I have the full series, so I need to finish it. Promise by Rachel Eliza Griffiths is also on my physical TBR for the year. It's actually not too thick of a book, but I've only heard really good things about it. I know it takes place in the 1950s when the civil rights movement was kind of sweeping the nation, so we're going through our character's kind of life during that time in New England, I believe. So I'm excited to read this one and share my thoughts. Then I have The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. And I know this is more of a historical romance and has more of an emotional plot to it. So I really can't wait to get into it. Also, this cover is stunning and it has like the deckled edges. I don't know why a lot of people don't like deckled edges, but I last but not least we have our final genre, which is mystery thriller. So I only have 2 books in that section, so we are almost done. Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. I believe this can also fall under historical fiction, mystery, romance-ish book. I've only heard really good things about it because it's a book that people were not expecting to have such depth. So I'm curious to see where this goes and see if this is an author I will want to read again. Again, I've only heard really good things, so hopefully I like it. Our last book is Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington. I know very minimal about this book other than I have a lot of friends who absolutely rave about this book and recommend it. Thriller is not usually my genre of choice, but I have been leaning into that a lot more this year. I think I've read since like October of last year and till now at least 10 to 15 like thrillers or mystery books, and I've been enjoying them. So I can't wait to get into this one and see kind of what the hype's about. Like, follow, and subscribe to go ahead and see me tackle this TBR this year and how I end up tackling this. What books are on your 2026? Are any of mine's on your 2026?